You think you've heard it all when it comes to betrayal and heartbreak, but trust me, my story isn't just another episode of Cheated and Left. This one takes a wild turn, and let me tell you, I wasn't just the one left in the dust. I got my revenge, and it's a story you'll want to stick around for. So, let's rewind a bit. I'm not some action hero or a tortured artist. I'm just Dan, an average guy juggling a regular job, making a living, and keeping life on an even keel. I've never been one to stir up trouble. In fact, I'm the type who avoids drama. But my ex, Emily, she was anything but ordinary. Emily had this magnetic charisma. People were drawn to her like moths to a flame. It wasn't just her looks, though she was stunning. It was how she commanded a room with her confidence and razor-sharp wit. At first, I was completely enchanted. Emily's humor was infectious. She could brighten the darkest day with her laugh and charm. I loved it all until I didn't. Over time, her jokes started feeling less like endearing quirks and more like barbs aimed directly at me. I was the steady one, the serious anchor in our relationship, and for a while, it worked. She brought the excitement. I kept the balance. But eventually, her humor took a dark turn and bit me hard. One evening, I came home from work, exhausted as usual, nothing out of the ordinary, until I walked in and was greeted by the smell of a warm meal and lit candles. Emily had made her famous lasagna. It was her way of setting the stage for a cozy night in, but as we sat down to eat, something felt off. Her casual conversation took a sharp turn when she nonchalantly dropped a bombshell. "I'm feeling a bit tired of us." I was stunned, fork suspended midair. Tired? What was she talking about? We weren't fighting. We had our routine, but I thought we were solid. And then, as if reading my mind, she hit me with a kicker. I slept with someone. The way she said it was as if she'd mentioned changing her hairstyle. It didn't register. My brain was frozen, the words hanging in the air like a sick joke. She finished her dinner, kissed me goodnight, and went to bed, leaving me paralyzed. I was angry, confused, and betrayed, but instead of confronting her, I stormed out to clear my head. I considered calling my best friend, but then my finger hovered over another contact. Emily's friend, let's call her Sarah. Sarah and I had a past, a bit of unresolved tension, and she had always been a good listener. I called her up, and she agreed to meet me at a bar. When I saw Sarah at the bar, she immediately sensed something was wrong. I poured out my story, and initially, she was in disbelief. But as the night wore on and the drinks kept flowing, her shock turned to anger and frustration. As we stumbled out of the bar, she invited me back to her place for more wine. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were tangled up on her couch. I didn't plan to, but I started recording snippets on my phone, just to capture the moment. Or so I told myself. Sarah noticed, protested a bit, but eventually, she let it slide. The next morning, I was filled with a mix of satisfaction and guilt. When I got home, Emily was already up, her mood icy. She confronted me about my late night. And when I revealed that I'd done something similar to what she had done, her reaction was anything but what I expected. She laughed, assuming it was a twisted joke. I showed her the video, expecting her to be devastated. Instead, her laughter turned into anger as she realized the truth. She screamed, calling me a bastard for what I had done. But then she dropped another bombshell. It was all a prank. Emily had never actually cheated. It was a ploy to test my reaction. My world crashed down. I'd taken revenge based on a lie, and now everything was falling apart. I went to Sarah's place to explain, but instead of sympathy, she was furious. She felt used and manipulated. In the end, Emily filed for divorce. I went to Sarah, seeking refuge, but our relationship, already strained, didn't survive the chaos. The divorce was long and painful, with every detail of our downfall splashed across our social circle. And here I am, trying to make sense of it all. This isn't just a story about revenge and betrayal. It's a lesson in the consequences of letting emotions take over and how sometimes the truth is far more complicated than we want to believe. When I stepped into Megan's apartment, I could feel the weight of the day pressing heavily on my shoulders. Megan, her face a mixture of concern and irritation, let me in without a word. The silence between us was thick as I followed her to the couch, every step echoing my own turmoil. We both knew the situation was beyond complicated, but there was no turning back now. As I sank into the couch, Megan took a seat across from me, her eyes fixed on the floor. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp, adding to the somber mood. After a long pause, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me everything," she said, her tone a blend of curiosity and frustration. I began recounting the night's events, my voice trembling slightly as I detailed the entire confrontation with Lisa. The shock on Megan's face deepened as I described how Lisa had accused me of cheating, how I had responded, and the ultimate revelation of the video. Megan's reaction was a whirlwind of emotions. Her initial disbelief gave way to anger as the gravity of the situation sank in. She paced back and forth, her frustration palpable. "So you thought it was a good idea to get revenge by filming yourself with me?" she demanded, her voice rising. "You dragged me into this mess without even telling me what was really going on." I tried to explain, but the words felt inadequate. "I didn't mean for it to turn out like this. I was just trying to get back at Lisa. I never wanted to hurt you, Megan. I thought—" Megan cut me off, her expression hardening. "You thought what? That you could play with people's lives and not face consequences? This isn't just about you and Lisa anymore. You've made things worse for everyone involved." Her words hit me like a cold slap. I had been so focused on my own pain and desire for revenge that I hadn't considered the collateral damage. The realization that I had betrayed Megan's trust, on top of everything else, was almost too much to bear. "I'm sorry, Megan," I said, feeling the weight of my mistakes crashing down on me. "I really am. I didn't think about how this would affect you." Megan's anger seemed to simmer down, replaced by a profound sadness. "You're not the only one who's been hurt here. I lost a friend because of this. And now you're asking me to fix things? It's not that simple." We sat in silence for a while, the air heavy with regret and disappointment. Eventually, Megan sighed and grabbed her phone. "I'm going to try calling Lisa," she said, her voice weary. "Maybe she'll listen if I explain." She dialed Lisa's number several times, each ring echoing the growing desperation in Megan's eyes. But Lisa didn't answer, and after a while, Megan gave up, frustration evident in her demeanor. "I don't know what else to do," Megan said, her voice breaking. "This is a mess I didn't sign up for." I nodded, feeling the same helplessness. "I need to try and fix things with Lisa. I can't just let this end like this." I left Megan's apartment with a heavy heart, my mind racing with thoughts of how to make amends. When I returned home, I found Lisa sitting at the kitchen table, her face a mask of cold detachment. I tried calling Lisa, I said, my voice thick with emotion. "She's not picking up. I need to explain, to make things right." Lisa looked at me with a mixture of pity and anger. "There's nothing left to say, really. You made your choice. I've already called a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt the ground beneath me crumble, and I struggled to find any words of solace or explanation. "Lisa, please," I pleaded. "This isn't what I wanted. I was wrong, but—" Lisa held up a hand, cutting me off. "There's nothing more to discuss. You made your choice. Now, I'm making mine." Her finality was overwhelming. I turned away, feeling the weight of my actions crushing me. I knew I couldn't stay in the house any longer, so I went back to Megan's apartment, hoping to find some solace. Megan let me in again, her face a mix of sympathy and weariness. I explained the divorce situation, the overwhelming sense of defeat, and the reality of facing the consequences of my actions. Megan took me in, and we settled into a routine of sorts, though it was far from ideal. The divorce process dragged on for weeks, each day a reminder of the mistakes I had made. Lisa made sure to spread the story, turning our mutual friends against me and ensuring that everyone knew the details of the mess I had created. Megan and I tried to navigate this new reality together. Despite the tension and awkwardness, she supported me in her way, but the strain on our relationship was palpable. It was clear that things between us would never be the same. As the divorce proceedings continued, I found myself reflecting on the choices that had led to this point. The anger and pain I had felt seemed trivial compared to the wreckage I had left in my wake. All I could do was try to rebuild my life from the ruins, knowing that the road to redemption would be long and fraught with challenges. The days stretched into weeks, and the weight of the divorce and its aftermath seemed to settle like a heavy fog over my life. Lisa's absence was a constant reminder of the mess I had made, and every interaction with her through lawyers and paperwork was a painful reminder of the trust and love I had shattered. Megan remained a steady presence, though our relationship was strained. We tried to rebuild some semblance of normalcy, but the specter of the past hung over us. Megan's support was unwavering, but the emotional toll of the situation was evident. She would often stay up late, staring at her phone, lost in thought. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of legal meetings and phone calls, I returned to Megan's apartment, exhausted and defeated. She greeted me with a weary smile and offered me a cup of tea. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the unspoken between us. "I've been thinking," Megan finally said, breaking the silence. "Maybe it's time for you to start looking at ways to move on from all this. You need to focus on rebuilding your life." I nodded, understanding her point but struggling with the idea of moving forward. "I know, Megan. It's just hard to see a way out of this mess. Every time I think I'm making progress, something else happens that pulls me back down." Megan looked thoughtful, her eyes distant. "Have you considered talking to a therapist or counselor? It might help you process everything and figure out what you want next." The idea was foreign but intriguing. I hadn't considered it before, too caught up in the immediate chaos. "I haven't, but it might be worth a try. I just feel so lost." Megan nodded, her expression softening. "I think it could help, and maybe it'll give you a clearer perspective on how to move forward." With Megan's encouragement, I started seeing a therapist. The sessions were both challenging and eye-opening. Through our conversations, I began to understand the deeper issues driving my actions and the emotional baggage I had been carrying. It was a long process, but slowly, I began to see the possibility of healing and personal growth. Meanwhile, the divorce process continued to drag on, with Lisa and I communicating only through lawyers. The bitterness and resentment made every interaction difficult. Each document signed, each negotiation felt like another blow to my already fragile sense of self. Megan and I continued to navigate our complicated relationship. We found moments of connection amidst the tension, but there were also frequent misunderstandings and arguments. It was clear that our friendship, while deep and meaningful, was also profoundly altered by the events that had transpired. One day, as I was reflecting on the progress I'd made with my therapist, I received a call from Lisa's lawyer. Lisa had agreed to a settlement, and the divorce was finalized. The news was both a relief and a heartbreak, a closing chapter in a painful story. I met with Megan that evening, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. "It's over," I said, my voice heavy. "The divorce is final." Megan looked at me with a mix of sympathy and uncertainty. "And how do you feel about that?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It's a relief in some ways, but it's also just final. I guess it's time to start focusing on my future." Megan nodded. "I think that's a good idea. It's time to figure out what you want and how you're going to get there." As the weeks turned into months, I started to rebuild my life, taking Megan's advice to heart. I worked on my personal growth, focusing on my career, and repairing the damage to my relationships with friends and family. It was a long and difficult road, but I began to see small signs of progress. Megan and I continued to support each other, though our relationship remained complicated. We both knew that moving on would take time and effort, but there was a mutual understanding that we needed to work through our issues, individually and together. In the end, the journey through this tumultuous period was marked by both hardship and growth. While the pain of the past never fully vanished, it served as a powerful reminder of the importance of making thoughtful choices and valuing the relationships that matter most.